hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, joined by my co-host Mike Benelli. Christy Casciano Burns is on assignment today, literally in the newsroom again, but that's not going to stop us from recording because our guest today has built an amazing NHL career on a word we love as coaches, consistency. Karl Alzner was drafted 5th overall by the Washington Capitals in 2007 and went on to play nearly 600 NHL games with the Caps and the Canadiens. He won 2 World Junior gold medals with Team Canada, serving as captain, something we'll talk about today, and became known throughout the league as a steady, dependable defenseman. Steady, dependable defenseman. We talk about this all the time on the air, how wonderful steady, dependable defensemen are. At one point, Karl played 428 consecutive NHL games. It's one of the longest Ironman streaks in the league, a reflection of preparation, discipline, and reliability. And today, we're going to talk about what it really means to be dependable and how young players can earn trust and what players and coaches sometimes misunderstand about development. We're also going to touch up on the upcoming Ice Hockey Cup in Scotland, where Karl will be representing Team Canada in a USA versus Canada series featuring a lot of former NHL players, many whom you have heard from on this show. Karl, welcome to Our Kids Play Hockey.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. This is a world that I'm knee deep in right now, so fun to talk about some hockey and kids sports in general.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about it. Folks at home, we talked in the pre-show. Karl's got kids in the game. He's actually going to a practice after we're done recording here. It's a perfect environment, Karl.
Yeah.
You know, where I want to start, though, because this is a cool question to ask. We said you wore the C for Canada at the World Juniors before you were even an NHL regular. I want to start here because, you know, for the young players listening, I always get asked a lot, hey, are we going to have captains this year? Can we be captains? What do you feel real leadership looks like in youth hockey? And for the parents and coaches, how do we help kids grow into leaders instead of just throwing a C on their chest just for the notoriety of it?
I think the main, it's the same. I think it's really the same in youth hockey as it is as you get older and older. But it's following the rules or the game plan set out by the coaching staff, right? You don't want a player that's just going to go off script and, why is player A doing this, but player B, C, and D don't have to do that, right? You want your captain or your leader to execute whatever that game plan is, or just work ethic. You want them to be the type of person that I think brings the team together a little bit as well. Like, it's a lot to ask of a youth hockey player, a youth player in general, is to be someone that brings the team together. But I've unfortunately seen it already a few too many times where your best player is harping on other players for not being good enough, and it's just like that just hurts confidence instantly, right? And as young kids, they don't quite know how to deal with that, and you want them to go there and have fun. So I'd see a little bit more of a glue guy or girl than just being, give me the puck and watch what I do with it type of person. So in my opinion, those are the two things. Follows direction and works hard, and can be liked by everybody, or at least respected by everybody.
It's amazing, right? That when you get to the World Juniors, you're a captain, but in a room full of probably captains, right? I mean, all those guys go in that room, they're all probably captains of their teams that they're coming from.
Yeah.
Or close to it, right? So how did you deal with that? Like, was it something where, like, listen, I know as a coach, right, we talk about, like, you don't have to wear the C to be a captain material, like to be vocal or to be, to stand up and say something in the room or be a leader and lead in whatever ways. I mean, do you find that that your team obviously was a great thing to be recognized as a captain of captains? But what do you have to do as that leader to allow those other leaders to kind of emerge?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was lucky because I was one of three players that returned that year, Sam Gagne and Brad Marchand being the other two. And so we got to rely on our experience from the year before of going into a shootout against Team USA, getting all the way to the finals, also playing in Europe, which is much different than playing in North America. And so I think it was somewhat of a natural decision for the coaching staff to make one of us, the captain, and have the others as assistants, or I guess tag us as the leadership committee on that team. So using that to help the other players understand, what we were going to be going through, how although social media wasn't really that big at that point, there's still going to be people reaching out and going crazy. And we lost a game and in the round robin, and we felt it. Like, even though we were in Europe, we knew people weren't happy with us. So relying on us to be able to just settle everybody down and it's not go through the motions, but knowing that it was just a game and we get back to what we need to do. So I think coming into it, the other players had a bit of a level of respect for us already, knowing that we had gone through it and we were, some of the older players on the team. So naturally there was just more, let's listen to what they have to say and they can tell us about the experience. But I've never been overly vocal. I'm a player that tries to lead by example, tries to show up all the time, as kind of mentioned in the beginning of the show, and just show them by that, right? I wasn't the best player on the team, not by a mile. We had some unbelievable skill on that squad. So to go in there and fill a role as your captain and not be the Crosby, the Ovi, the McDavids, but be more of that secondary guy. It was easy for me to do and just try and keep the dressing room as level as possible.
I want to ask this too. I always say this to the kids because I get asked a lot, like I told you, as a youth coach about captaincy. And I always say that, that C could stand for conduit in the sense of you're a conduit for the coaches and you're a conduit for your teammates. It's not just about you. And I always tell young kids too that the best captains that I've ever coached or even played for or with didn't need that C to be a captain.
Yeah.
Right. And Karl, I know you're that type of guy too. You said you led by example. And I always tell young people that's something to really think about, right? If you need that C to quote unquote play better or lead, you probably shouldn't have it yet, right? Because that's not what it represents, right? I got to ask this too. Speaking of C's, right? You played with someone who happens to be one of the longest tenured captains in the history of the NHL now, and Alex Ovechkin. This whole show is about you. Don't worry. I want to talk about you, but we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you for a little bit the peek behind the curtain of what kind of a leader Alex is, in the sense of because look, the younger Alex Ovechkin's very flashy. The older Alex Ovechkin's very established. But you were with him. You understood the guy, right? What was he like as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, he was a different type of leader than you would say as your like prototypical captain, right? Like if you think your normal leader, you probably go more towards like a Steve Yzerman, Sidney Crosby, as people kind of know him.
Messier,
or Messier. He was different in the sense that he was just that energy guy that had lots of excitement, and so he kind of would drag the team along because of that. You know what I mean? He would go out there and smash guys and get everybody fired up, and that's how he led. But, he was also on another planet with his ability to score goals. And so nobody could really relate to that side of your captain, right? Right. Yeah. It was just impossible. So we as a team kind of relied on the leadership group. It wasn't like you mentioned, it doesn't have to be the guy just wearing the C. We had a group that we kind of relied on, whereas like Nick Backstrom or Justin Williams we had for a little bit, they were almost like the more relatables. And so, you have those guys that kind of paint this picture, and then you have Ovi that just grabs you and drags you along with them. So I think that's the makeup of a good leadership group, right? It isn't just one player.
One
I think, going back to who your captain is or who your season A's are, I think they have to be, people who are observant and can kind of understand what the undertones of the dressing room are. Right. Because you need to be able to relay that message to the staff. Like, hey, boys aren't happy today. They're tired. They're pissed off. They don't want to do this in practice, or that was a bad practice, whatever it may be, and be able to deliver that message to the coaching staff and then be able to bring it back to the players as well and deliver that in the right way. So it's a player that can really have a good pulse of the dressing room and not just be like in your own world all the time. It's like, this is the way I see it. I don't care how that fourth line sees it right now, or that the 5-6 defenseman. You need to be able to try and round out the entire picture, which is not that easy to do. It takes a special type of person to be like that type of captain. But you could have someone who just like
Yeah.
Obi grabs the
Wow.
team
You
and
know, I
drags them
mean,
along with you.
this kind of goes into another question, right? But that like thinking about the captaincy and thinking about you talked a little bit about being on in the World Juniors and the team across the world basically loses a game and you feel it, right? And I think at a young age, and I think you probably obviously at 18 years old, there's a lot of expectations for your fifth round draft choice, and you're playing for your country, and all the guys in the room have that same feeling. But now that you're a youth hockey parent and you're in the world of youth hockey, we're seeing those levels of expectations for kids start happening at like 7 years old. And like, what could you, I mean, number one is not, I'd love to hear if you
Yeah.
think you had that, because obviously you were probably a great player at a young age, but how would you then, advise and help parents today that have high performing athletes? They know they're high performers, but there's really a lot of some realistic and many unrealistic expectations and pressure that comes with being a great player at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, this is the discussion we have amongst parents right now all the time, and I always asking other, former teammates and stuff that have kids that are going through it because, our area is, hockey is buzzing in Northern Virginia, but the level of hockey isn't, quite as high as it is, back home where I'm from in Vancouver, or in, say Toronto or Minnesota, right? It's just a different level, and so I'm asking them, picking their brains all the time, and the one thing that I keep hearing and keep coming back to is just to try and enjoy the ride. Like don't put so much pressure on them. Which you guys, I know that if you have a kid that is just asking for more, sure, give them some more. But also there needs to be some separation, right? Like I'm going through it right now where we have evaluations this next few weeks, and their parents are already asking, are they what spring hockey are they going to do? What camps are they going to do? And I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing the baseball camp
Right.
this summer, and the baseball spring hockey, and they're going to do something different because I want them to refresh. I want them to reset. And I know people have heard Wayne Gretzky say this too. At the end of the season, throw the bag down into the basement, grab something else, and work on different skills because they may not be directly hockey skills, but they're applicable in certain instances, right? And so that's kind of what we keep coming back to is if your kid shows insane amount of interest and that's all they want to do, you'll let them pursue it. But
Sure.
enjoy this ride while they're doing it, and let it kind of unfold. I'll give you a funny line that Shea Weber actually told me when I asked him this question. I said, what's it like coaching the kids? And this is when his team was they were 8 and 9 years old. And he said he had to sit down all the parents, he took all the dads, put them in a room, and he just said, let them all know. He said, just so we all know here, not a single one of our kids is going to make the NHL. And he said he watched all their faces just drop, and they were like, huh. And he's like, so let's have fun. Let's enjoy our time at the rink. Let's enjoy, the bonding that we get to have and watching our kids play. And things will be more fun. And he said it completely shifted. So adjusting the expectations. Of course, we want our kids to play major, junior, college, NHL, whatever it is. But, these are fun memories. So let's enjoy the memories instead of being pissed off all the time.
I wonder how many people left that team at the end of the year. But I'm just wondering, like, because like, what the hell does he know? But I think I think that's like what I'm getting at, right? Is that I think what happens, right? And you're seeing it now,
Yeah.
is that the parents that don't take off, like they think they have the edge. They're like, oh well, I'm going to catch my kid up because I'm going to put him in hockey, and by the time September rolls around, I'm going to have surpassed. But the fact is, right, and you've seen this probably, I mean, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, that a kid that's going to be a hockey player, that's going to be an NHL player, can probably put their skates away and come back in September and in 4 days be better than the kid that's just worked out for 6 other months in hockey. Because they're just better. They're better athletes. They're probably more refreshed. They probably have a different mindset. They're hungrier. They're like, and again, they're probably not in a position like we all. It's ironic that the people that are mentioning the right thing to do are all the people that actually did it, and the people that are joining all the other things are the people that have never experienced it. And you're like, well, Why don't we listen? Like if you have somebody that is a world-class tax person, maybe have them do your taxes, not
Yeah.
like, some guy who can't add.
Well,
Like, so just like, and I think that's like, to your point with the pros, like pro guys, we've had, I don't know, Lee could say how many pro guys we've had
It's
on
a
the
lot,
show that are coaching their kids. And that message, it could be on just a roll.
To make a
Yeah.
highlight reel of it.
well, I think
And it's just funny how, like, you could hear it, but then they say, yeah,
yeah.
but that's not my
Yeah. Well, I think we need to remember, like, because we hear all of the outlier stories, right? We hear about the Williams sisters in tennis. We hear about Tiger in golf and Andre Agassi, where they grind, and they become world class. Where that's one of the other 50 that made it, right? Who didn't get ground into the ground and also made it, right? And so we don't always get to hear the other stories because they're less interesting. They're less glamorous. Oh, this kid played hockey as well as baseball, as well as lacrosse, but they just so happened to make it in hockey. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't hear those stories
Yeah,
as
and not
much.
to bring up a sore subject, but like that was like Connor Hellebuck's story, right? Like, all of a sudden when U.S. wins gold medal and you got Connor Hellebuck, and everybody wants to repeat the story that he wasn't a AAA goalie
Yeah.
growing up, that he went a different path, and you would hope that would swing the pendulum a little bit. Like, people like, oh well, there is other paths. Like, yes, and that's more the norm.
Yeah.
But we don't celebrate that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Mike Green's a good example too. He didn't really get too heavy into hockey until, I mean, you'd have to fact check me on this, but I don't even think he started really playing hockey until 10 years old, which parents who listen to this are probably like, 10 years old? My kid's been playing travel already for 5 years. Like, it's hard to believe. And he was able to, by 16, 17, 18, become one of the best junior hockey players in all of Canada, right? So it can happen fast. It doesn't, you do other things, and the kids are resilient. They figure it out.
Yeah, Carl, you reminded me, we had an episode with Chris Terrian. And he shocked the audience by telling everybody he didn't even play when he was 15. He quit hockey for a year when he was 15. It just goes to show you that there's no one path. One thing you brought up that I really do love is about the spring. As of right now, my kids don't play hockey in the spring, right? And they haven't asked to play hockey in the spring. If they do, we'll have that conversation. But what that has gifted me as a coach and as a father is, without fail, when we get to kind of, June, July, late July, I hear, and parents listening, this is the most refreshing thing I can hear is, hey, Dad, when are we getting on the ice again?
Yeah.
When can we play hockey again? They are excited to be back out on the ice at that point, right? And I'll tell you right now, the kid that's playing year-round, parents, you might say, well, he feels that way, she feels that way. Well, you wouldn't know because you're not taking any breaks, right?
Well, and I will say, because I run into a lot of people listening to the show, and I don't want to be a hypocrite, but my son right now is playing spring hockey, right?
Sure.
And it's not,
there's nothing wrong with
again,
it.
But my winter life is not a crazy, like, our winter life is a normal, like a muted hockey life.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to Detroit, Chicago, Dallas, or Vancouver this winter for hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
For his hockey.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where, like, for us as families, because I talk to a lot of families about this, and it really comes up with, there's a lot of back and forth. It's not a tournament team. It's a bunch of friends. It's once a week, and he's playing, right? And in my world, because he plays lacrosse as well, if he's not playing lacrosse and keeping up with his schoolwork, I need to fill that time.
Yeah, right.
Like, I got to make sure there's something going on there,
right.
or else it's not a good situation. So again, but it's not in a car, it's not on a plane,
Right.
and it's not every weekend going to a tournament. It's more of it's almost like me replicating, like, the pond hockey world.
Well,
like,
I want to say too, Mike,
go and have fun.
You're not a hypocrite, parents, and no one. There's nothing wrong if your kids want to play spring hockey.
I'm just saying. There's never a definitive, like, do not do it.
Where I'm going with
your family and you say what works.
Yeah.
And then you have to see, does your kid need a break? Like, you just need to see if they need a little bit of an off ramp.
But that's the key, Mike, and for Carl's point too. Like again, that's why I said, if my kids ask me to play, which they have not done, that's a conversation. I think there's a lot of pressure on parents of, you got to do spring hockey. And it's like, no, you don't. Play a different sport. Play an instrument. just do something else for a little bit.
Yeah,
We give you permission for whatever our authority is, and
exactly.
Karl Alzner's too. You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, you can follow the kid's lead, right? That's pretty
Right.
much what it is. Follow their lead. Get them a pair of rollerblades and a ball. Let them play outside too, just so it's a different look. There is no one right way to do it. You got to listen to the kid and see what they want to do.
Meet them where they're at. I love that you summed that 10-minute segment up so beautifully there. You know, okay, Karl, another thing I want to talk to you about. So we did an episode a year ago. It became one of our most popular episodes almost immediately. The title of that episode was The Underappreciated Defenseman. Okay, Mike actually came up with this episode because we had kind of had enough of like, there's just no love for defense in youth hockey, right? Now, you had one of the most reliable NHL careers ever. You know, you went shift by shift. I mean, you were just very dependable as a player. All right. I think people sometimes hear that. We talked about, like you said, it's not as loud and flashy, but man, there's a lot of value in that, right? Can you talk about maybe what are some of the small habits that made you dependable, made coaches trust you, even when you're not Alex Ovechkin, right? Like you're not the flashy player in that regard. And let's really talk to the parents and the youth athletes because there are a lot of underappreciated defensemen out there.
Yeah, there really are, and it's a hard position to get players to want to play because we all love scoring goals. We all love getting assists. You love playing in the offensive zone, and to sit back at times and just watch that happen, or hopefully start the play so that someone else can finish it. It's just not that fun. But like you said, it is incredibly valuable.
Coaches love it.
Yeah, coaches do love it. And look, I think a lot of it is the kid themselves. They just have something in their brain where they have that like protective mentality where that's what they want to do. Like if you throw to a group of 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and you let them just have a scrimmage, you kind of see which ones gravitate towards staying back and which ones want to score the goals. And those are the ones you can start to kind of foster that love for defense and wanting to play a reliable style of game. What I really know now that I'm retired is I almost got too far into that when I was with the Caps and with Montreal. I almost started turning into one-dimensional, right? And I worked, if I could go back, maybe after the first few years with Washington, to continue working on my offensive side of the game, because so like for people listening, the way it went for me is I was the power play guy in junior. I was the guy at the point. I was sometimes the bumper guy in the middle. I was the bumper guy in the American League. Like I was a power play guy. And then I get to the Caps, and all of a sudden I have Mike Green and John Carlson that are there on the power play, and Ovi plays D on the power play. I'm like, okay, there's no path forward on the power play for me. I need to really make sure that my defensive game is as solid as can be. And so I started to kind of get away from working on some of those offensive habits, right? And so I think that is tough with the youth player, is you don't want to all of a sudden be labeled a defenseman or whatever it is early on, and then you stop doing all that, the stick handling, the shooting, all those things that come along with it. But I think you got to really pay attention to what the kids are doing on the ice, and the ones that seem to get it, you start to focus on it. And the things that I love focusing on with those players, what we've done the last couple of years, is 100% using their stick, one hand stick. I think that's such an important skill for these kids to learn how to do play with a stick on puck. And then positioning. Oh my goodness. Like watching players skate around all over the place, following the puck, and not like sometimes just being in a position with your stick in the right lane is the best defense, right? It deters so many things from happening, and there needs to be just a little bit more focus on that. And I think the best way to teach that is have kids watch hockey. Focus on a player. Watch a Jacob Slavin play out there and see where he is on the ice with his stick, and realize that it's just positioning. It's like playing squash. You don't have to run all over the court to be good at it. You stand in the middle and just be there. So it sounds so easy, and I think it is, but you watch guys in the NHL that can't play defense. They have no idea where to go out there. So like I said, I think it's just a long way to say I think it's in some players and it is not in some players, and to really try to focus on that with the players that seem to get it.
And that's a little result too, right? Of us as coaches and evaluators. Like, it's very hard to see the kid that just waits out the play and takes ice. Like our good friend Mike Weaver is the same type of, like, we've had these conversations with him a million times. Like, well, you don't look like you're doing anything out there. He goes, yeah, because I just take the ice, I give you the ice I want you to take, and I make it boring. Like, if you're a defenseman, it make it look boring out there. That's what your job is, right? I mean, if you're not going to be the guy who's going to rush the puck with a minute left in the game and try to win the game, like, everybody can't be Cale Makar. And I think, that's where at the youth level, though, it's so hard to get coaches to appreciate. And that's why we had that episode, right? Is because it's so hard to get coaches and parents to appreciate how good you have to be to look boring. Like, it's just like a good goalie, right? A goalie that's Dominic Hasek, and he was great too, bad example. But a goalie has to dive around and jump around and make these great saves. And you're like, well, yeah, but he's doing a lot of work that a lot of other guy maybe doesn't have to do, because they're just in like the best position they could ever be in. And I think that's like you're describing, like, if I'm a youth hockey coach of a 10-year-old, it is hard to make it's hard to equate that kid as being a great player, because they don't look like the kid that's going to spin off the puck, drive down the boards, drive to the inside lane and get a shot on net. Like, and we all value that player, but and I think that, I guess my question to you is, like, how can we get parents to understand that that's great at 10 and 11 and 12, but at the end of the day, at 19 and 20 years old, somebody has to play D. And those people, then that's where the value really comes into play.
Well, I would say that what separates a lot of players that play in the East Coast League and the American League to the ones that play in the NHL isn't always, it's not usually skill. Like, obviously there is a bit of a level of skill that's higher in the NHL, but it's the brain. It's being able to play it. And, like, I will say this, and it sounds bad, but at the end of my career, when I was down playing a lot of games in Laval in the American League, like, my preparation did not need to be anywhere near where it was when I was in the NHL, because a lot of those players, some of the really good young ones were really good, but you could outthink them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to, the old saying, I'm trying to play chess while they're playing checkers. So I just know that, this is where the play is going to move to. I'm going to already be here, ready to go. I'm going to, give you my triangle to pass through and take it away, because I'm thinking 2 steps ahead and you're thinking 1 step, right? So it's trying to have your players think away from the puck and play away from the puck. And we try and talk about that a lot, and it's hard. I mean, it gets a little bit easier as you get older, but I'm working with a kid right now who plays high school hockey. And that's like the number one thing I try and tell them is be good away from the pucks. It's going to save you so much pain, right? Instead of having a player come down on you full speed, you're already in the right position because you've been waiting for this to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love where we're going here, Karl. I put a bunch of notes down here that I want to talk about. I want to talk for a few minutes about some, like, actionable items we can talk to coaches and parents pay attention to on this one. But hockey IQ, we've been saying this on the show since we started 6 years ago. Hockey IQ is just down. It's just not as emphasized as it used to be. There's more emphasis on skill and showtime, as I like to say, I think, for the kids. And I think what happens with a lot of coaches is they fall into I call it the offensive trap, where you're really just focused on goal scoring, and you end up seeing a lot of 9-8 games, right? So this is what I want to discuss for a few minutes is some methodologies for coaches to adopt to kind of curtail that. And I'm going to start with a good one, right, is rewarding good defense and helping your kids understand. Like, I just had a game recently where, we won the game, but the defense was really exceptional from this elementary age team. And I really went into that in the locker room. It wasn't just that we won. It was, wow, our defense was stellar tonight. Mm-hmm. And we were taking away space. We were taking away passing lines. And also explaining to kids, and coaches, don't underestimate this in a young D. If a D is back and playing an angle or a gap really well, even if the player gets the shot off, that small little play is enough sometimes for the puck to miss the net, or it's just they're not going to make a good play. That needs to be recognized. And you need to talk about what you just said, Karl, like triangles and space and gap And kids that are young can actually understand this
Mhm.
more than you think they can. All right. You can teach an 8-year-old what gap control
Right.
is. You got to do it in an 8-year-old way.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. All right. But like we should be teaching that. Another thing I wrote down here is we do a thing. I'm going to do this a lot more next season called grit points. All right. Because the only points that show up on the score sheet are goals and assists and maybe shots against and saves if you're a goalie, if that's even accurate. There's not much for defensive play. So we created our own stats for great defensive plays. And the kids love it.
Yeah.
They love it. When you angle someone off, you get a point for that, like those little things. So, Karl, I'm interested in your thoughts on things we can do, especially in the youth game. I agree with you. It does get easier as you get older and kids have a little bit more acumen for tactical stuff.
Yeah.
But what can we do at those younger ages?
Yeah, well, I think I love the point system. We, believe it or not, even use that in the American League. We used it occasionally in the NHL as well. That was a way to measure, if we were maybe
You're making
struggling.
me feel smart now.
Yeah, if we were maybe struggling a little bit defensively and allowing too many chances, we'd bring that in for a few games where they kept those stats and made sure everybody saw them after games. So I think that is definitely a great thing. I think like you said, you need to praise those little things. That's probably the number one thing that I talk to the kids about on the bench. A kid has a great stick. They close somebody off. I'm all over that right away. I want to see that. I love when a player can recognize danger and then start coming back early. Right? Don't wait for the puck to turn over. Make sure you try and read that ahead of time, and then make sure you give them some praise for that too. Right? Because it's I would love for this puck to turn over and go offense here and have an opportunity to score, but sometimes we need to live to fight another day. That's like, we say that so much in hockey. It's like, just, live to fight another day. Our chances will come. So praising those little victories right there, I think is great. Challenge your team, before a game. Say, we do this on ours. It's like, we're going to have no odd man rushes today. So that way the kids are ready for that. No, I mean, at 10U, it's sometimes no breakaways, right? Like we want to make sure there's no breakaways today instead of 5. So that's, those little challenges like that. Or have, challenge it with, I want to see 5 stick on pucks where you poke a puck away from somebody, not swipe a puck away from somebody, poke a puck away from somebody. Very, very big difference, especially as you get older. You swipe at players that have skill, it's pretty much game over. So I like those little baby milestones. I think that's a good thing for coaches and players to understand.
I always say too, Mike, before you jump in, I always say blue line turnovers is one of mine too. Like I tell young coaches, if you can limit the blue line turnovers, you're going to change your whole team's game. Yeah,
we call that the rocket zone. That's the 5 feet before the offensive zone, and then the 5 feet to get out of the D zone.
Write that down.
It's you. It was actually funny. He's a tough coach. The guy we had in Laval, Joel Bouchard, but I loved him. The first meeting that I had our video session, they had a player. He was showing a player from another team coming into the defensive zone. He's right at the blue line. And then he stopped the video and he gets on the whiteboard and he draws this little triangle. And he just says to the one guy, he's like, "Lerny, what happens here?" And Lerny just goes, "Kill." And Joel destroys this dry erase marker, pushing so hard. He's like, "Kill, kill. Nobody gets in our zone. This is the rocket zone. We protect this with our life." And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, with that much energy going into it, the players will remember it. But it is very, very true. Those blue lines, they are crucial at every level of the game.
Yeah, and I think,
and I will say too, I have seen. Sorry, Mike. At the pro level, like I'll say semi-pro level because you're on here, Karl. But at the semi-pro level, I mean, if you watch a team and they're doing 15, 20 blue line turnovers a game, they're a losing team. It's almost a guarantee.
Yeah, you want to sit on the bench, turn the puck over at the blue line.
Yeah,
listen, I just watched an NHL game and it was 8-7 the other day. So I maybe we got to talk. We got to get in that locker room. But I think to Karl, to your point though, like this is why. I mean, this is really why it's so great that in these regions that have like a super compile of ex-pro hockey players. It's so great to have you guys in the mix with the coaches, because the things that you're talking about and the nuances of the game, I don't think they get picked up by a normal, just everyday hockey fan. They just don't. Like even a dad coach or somebody that's been coaching kids, those kind of things. Like I don't think they're appreciated, nor do they get picked up. Like the verbiage you're using, and
Yeah.
I hope that the people listening right now, and we have a lot of coaches that listen, like those. That's the game. Like that's the nuances of the game. It's not just like somebody go, oh, that's a great pass. Yeah, but what did you do in all those other aspects of that piece that led to that? Or there's a great defensive play, but just like to your point, like knowing to put your stick in an area on the puck and not reach and swipe, that is the difference between a real defenseman and not a defense. Like that's the difference. And it's that little nuance. And I
Yeah.
think what happens at the youth hockey level is the kid that swipes, because the level maybe not be that high, he might be successful there, and it might result in something positive, but it's a negative. It's a negative thing that happened. Like I get that all the time when we see goals get scored. You're like, it's great that the goal was scored, but the 17 things that happen really aren't hockey plays. Like, don't even look. They were so horrible. Like the fact that we scored, and all the kids are like, oh, I'm getting rewarded for this goal. But you could, like, I think you as an ex player and now as a coach, those little nuances I think could really go underappreciated about how important they are to hear in a player's ear in real time, because that is the game of hockey. Like ultimately, those are the things that's going to separate the mediocre player from the great player.
Yeah, and I want to. I think going back to what we said about the IQ is maybe leaving the game, and there's definitely tons of coaches out there who did not play at a high level but are just very smart hockey people. They get the game. They know what they're talking about. And I don't know if it's a USA Hockey and a Hockey Canada thing now where there's so much emphasis on skill development and you want the kids to have fun and you don't want to bore them and this and that. But I think we're starting to shy away from teaching a little bit of the X's and O's is because of that. It's like,
I agree.
Let's find a way just to stick handle through everybody, skate through everybody. The fact that you can't clear the puck down the ice on a penalty kill anymore, and you have to try and stick handle out of the zone. Like, I think that ends up creating some bad habits. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'd rather.
I would agree with you, Carl.
Like time of game, time and place. Like when can you be high risk versus when do you just have to get the puck out of the zone, right? Luke Shen said it best to me about going glass and out. It's not always the right play, but it's never the wrong play, right? It's sometimes you just have to be a little bit safer. And so I think don't be afraid to teach some of the X's and O's of the game because it goes against what you're being told to teach, right? Like let's start learning how do we think the game at this young age? How are we going to beat a team that has a stud on it that you need to find a way to shut down, right? Like let's start having the kids understand those.
Yeah, and I think that philosophy of you got to keep moving all the time, move, get go. A lot of again, I'm a big fan of it, obviously. But what we don't emphasize though is how much work has to go off the ice, because our kids don't, like, these kids aren't watching hockey games. Like I watched hockey games. I would sit down and watch even today. I watch a whole hockey game, and I'm like, holy crap, look at that, or look what happened there. I'm trying to, but I don't think kids, because they're only seeing the 8-second snippet of somebody going between somebody's legs and roofing the puck.
Yeah.
They're not watching the game. And I think, so those programs that are doing those things, even at young ages, grabbing the kids and doing 20 minutes of video or sharing clips that aren't just highlights, that they're the fundamental clips like you're talking about. Like if you're in the Rocket Zone, I want to see 10 seconds of clips of every time a kid left and came in and left and came in. And that monotony and that boredom of the game really is what ended up being the successful piece. Lee says it all the time about the game, right? And when we talk about kids, the game is based off of you capitalizing somebody else's mistakes. So if we can limit all these mistakes, we will eventually win the game. And I think that's where coaches and I would agree in the education piece, it gets the IQ formula gets lost, because it's not emphasized that everything doesn't have to happen on the sheet of ice, and we have to do a better job of teaching off the sheet to get these other things taught. And again, and you in our area where you are, right, where you are too, it's a hard thing to do, because it's just time. It's the ability to get people to come to your your practices and your rink and your training more and for longer times during that night practice time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. You hear the line all the time after games in interviews from players and coaches that tonight we beat ourselves, right? It's because it's all those little mistakes that we made tonight instead of just keeping it simple. So yeah, I mean it's hard to find the exact perfect answer, but these are definitely some things that we can I think we can all work on.
Well, Carl, I'll tell you one thing we do with the kids is, I say this, teach choice. I tell that to the coaches, teach choices. You made that great reference to Luke Shen off the glass and out. It's never a bad decision. I tell my kids all the time, look, there's typically 3 good plays and 3 bad plays for every single situation. And I joke, pick one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Right? You can pick the least good play. It's still a good play. And when we talk to the kids, especially in practice in the locker room, we were talking about blue line turnovers, right? We'll talk about it. I'll say, what are your options here? I don't tell them what to do. Tell me some options that you have here. And they'll tell you, right? And, here's the thing. When they tell you that, they'll commit it to their memory at that point. If you just tell them, you're going to get a lot of nods and that blank stare. But like every situation in the game there's choices. Again, we don't have, I joke about this all the time. We don't have a stat like baseball for an error, right? If we kept that, everybody would have about 20 a game.
Yeah.
Right. So teach choice, right? Like you gotta, that's where the creativity and the hockey IQ comes in.
Yeah. Agreed. I think, I'm thinking back to some plays right now from people I've played with. And I guess everyone needs to remember the things I'm saying are coming from a very defensive mindset versus someone who was willing to take a risk. But I like what you said, Lee, right? Like, know what your choices are. If you're a defenseman and you want to try and, I hate saying it even, toe drag a player at the blue line so that you can find the lane or get some more space, you need to understand that, the risk here is breakaway or partial breakaway, right? Yeah. So knowing that if this turns over, my reaction needs to be, 3 hard strides straight back to the net, try and figure it out from there. Like just knowing what the risks are is very, very important for the kids.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between checkers and chess to me is knowing 2 or 3 moves that could be happening versus, okay, there's just one.
Right, but and it's easy to say, like we watched one of the most high profile games of the century, right, in USA Canada, and we see the best player in the world make a decision that afterwards everyone would have said, oh, well, that was the wrong decision. But in the moment, if Kel McCarr gets that puck, it's the best decision ever made.
It's the other way around.
So it's just like I think Carl, like on your side, like on my side, I would have rather seen a defensive posture and wait it out. But that's the nature of the beast, right? When you have players at this level and as great as you guys are, going on the ice and playing, it's a risk reward. You're weighing in one bounce, that's a win. In the other bounce, it's a loss. And it's easy to sit back and armchair quarterback that, but I think but it's in the moment you are driven, and again, you're driven by I'm going to get the puck and I'm going to win. And I think our youth, and I think that's where it gets hard for us as youth coaches, because that game actually meant something, where your 10-year-old game means nothing. So if they did that every single time and made a mistake, it's really not affecting the rest of their life. It doesn't affect their legacy. Nobody's ever going to remember. That live barn video is going to disappear in 40 days. Nobody cares. In this other stage, right, people do care. And I think that's where we all get caught up thinking, well, every weekend is not the Olympics. It's the time to make those mistakes.
Right, and I think this is another thing you can come back to as a coach when you have a not as important of a game is go a period by period. You can have a game plan where it's like, look, period 1, we are full go. We do that all the time. We're pressuring 2-1-2 right off every single face-off. It's D down the wall. Like, let's go this first period where we are full on pressure and just storm them as much as we can, and then let's try a period where we are almost like a trap, where we just try and play as stout defensively as we possibly can, and then you can mix and match, and then not only are the kids understanding the 2 different styles of play, but you're throwing completely different looks at a team as well, where they're like, these D are thinking, holy smokes, I'm going to have hard forecheck, and then maybe they throw a few pucks away. I mean, this is more game planning as you get older, but I think it's good for the players to be able to kind of turn, switch on the fly to, all right, I had this mentality of full on pressure. Now I'm gonna play full on D. So just things to play with.
And the reason I love that too, I mean, I love that philosophy and that methodology is because, when that player goes to their next team, they're going to have all those tools in the toolbox of knowing all those different ways. Those players are going to have those tools in the toolbox, knowing like that the game is situational. Like we talk about it all the time with all my team, all my groups that I work with. Like situational hockey is really the differentiator between just going and playing hockey. Like every time you look at the clock, and every time you look at the lines, and every time you look at what the advantages in a team, those are situations that changes the game. It's not 60 minutes of hockey. It's a situational game. I think what you're saying is like, oh wow, we're recognizing that they have jittery defensemen and guys that want to cough the puck up. Let's go. Just go at them. Don't worry about it. They're not going to make a good pass anyway. We're going to force them to make like the mistakes that we know they're going to make. And I think that's really where that's where real coaching comes in, because now you get to coach. Like you're actually like saying, hey guys, like can you comprehend this system and this idea, and then can you implement it? Now you're like, okay, now we're coaching. Now we're playing hockey.
Yeah, absolutely.
We said at the top of the episode, Carl's got to get to a practice. So, Carl, I'm gonna ask you one more question here. Carl is going to join us on a ride to the rink, so make sure your kids listen to that. But you're on here because you're going to be putting that Canadian jersey on once again here in a foreign country, right? In Scotland. You're heading to Scotland for the Ice Hockey Cup. Again, for those of you listening, it's a USA versus Canada series featuring a lot of NHL players. For the families who might not know about it, like what's making this special for you? And I got to ask this, after being, Captain Canada a few times early in your career, what does putting that maple leaf on mean again?
Well, you know what? It's funny because if you would have asked me that like a month ago, I would have just said, oh, it's just fun to play some semi-competitive hockey. And then after the Olympics, I'm like, well, now it's business. Like, I'm trained
for a show.
Are you laying the gauntlet out right now here on this show?
Well, I'm not going to stay off the ice all the way leading up to it. I'm going to get on the ice and I'm going to get in the gym a little bit. I want to make sure my back can hold up for three hockey games. So I think two things. One is you get the opportunity to play with some former teammates, players you played against. The being in the dressing room and hanging around the team is the thing that I think everybody misses the most. So getting that opportunity, I really wanted to do it. But it also touches on something that is really important to me. It's part of the reason why we moved back to the DC area is to help grow the game, right? Like this, Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC, it's not your typical hockey market. And there's not a ton of former pros that live in the area. So I wanted to be able to help with that. And to get to go to Scotland where, there is some pro hockey there, but I don't think it's probably not the top, maybe not even the top 10 sports that people would think about when they think of that part of the world. So to have an opportunity to go there and play in front of some fans and hopefully build a little bit of hype and see some kids there and just, hopefully get them excited about wanting to play and potentially playing in for their country at some point. That's what I'm looking forward to a lot. So I'm pumped about it. I love Scotland too, so it's good.
Yeah,
good all around.
Scotland's awesome, and Carl, there's some rabid hockey fans over there. It might not be the top 5 sports or top 10 sports, but the hockey fans over there are hockey fans like anywhere else. And listen, Ryan Ball, who's putting this together, is going to love that promo you just cut about making this personal. We'll enjoy that one. I don't know if they have Live Barn in Scotland or something like that. People might want to end up buying broadcast rights to this now.
Well, Milan Lucic is playing, right? So definitely want to get your Live Barn going. Should be great.
There you go. You never know what might happen when Milan's on the ice. No, but, Carl, we really appreciate you giving us some time today, and we're wishing you the best over it. Well, first off, I wish you the best in the gym with your back.
Yes.
And then we'll wish you the best over there in Scotland as well. And I want to end this just by saying thank you for all you're doing you have done for the game, how you're growing the game now. I don't think, especially, former NHL players get enough credit for the ambassadorship that you all do after you're done playing. I mean, it really is a pay it forward time. And I'll say this too, that look, obviously being in America, one of our biggest audiences is Toronto, but the rivalry, which has only been wonderful and at a boil for years, is even more now. And this game is growing after the last Olympics. So thank you for all you do in the game.
Yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing as well. This is a huge market. A lot of people have lots of questions about the game too, that are learning it and getting excited about it, and we're all trying to figure it out. Like even me going through it now, it's way different than it was when I did it. So I appreciate what you guys are doing as well and bringing me on. It's fun to talk about.
No, thanks, brother. Yeah, it takes a village. That's what we always say. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Remember, if you have a question, email us, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or use the link accompanying the episode in the description. Let us know your name, where you're from. You can always ask questions. We love reading them on the air. But for Karl Alzner, Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. We'll see you on the next Our Kids Play Hockey. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.